everyone. My name is Esther from Vietnam House Church. In the recent weeks, Pastor Choi had really focused on a life of prayer and how we should be praying about everything and anything. I would like to share how God worked in my life by listening to my prayers, especially in my workplace. Currently, it is my 4th year as a teacher, and throughout these years, I have really come to understand how living my faith in my workplace can be a challenging task. Last week in Josh's My Story, he mentioned how he wanted to be a lion not just at church, but outside in society as well. This really resonated with me, as I also felt guilty of just being a Christian at church, but the inability to live out my life outside. Knowing myself, I knew how fearful I was of being different and not wanting to make sacrifices at work as it would burden my load. I knew how selfish I was when it came to making decisions and how my only priority was myself. These all conflicted with my faith, as at church we learn about serving, loving, and making sacrifices. Recently, I had come across a struggle at work because I had to let another colleague know about issues we were having with our programs and how we had to change it. The colleague had so much more experience than I did, and I felt like I was in no position to be pinpointing problems, and especially as this meant that she had to rewrite most of that she had already done. The first thing that popped up in my mind was how I could phrase my words to make it sound nice as possible. However, I soon realized that I was trying to solve problems with my own strength, and as the sermons were about prayers, I decided to pray to God about this struggle I was having and ask for His strength and not my own. That night when I came home, I prayed for my anxious heart to be at peace and for wisdom in my words and for my colleague's heart to be open when this meeting went, so that this meeting would go smoothly. I told Josh how I was feeling, and he also prayed for me. It was quite surprising how after the prayer I was more at ease and was able to leave all the results to God. The next day, God gave me wisdom in how to communicate, which was to acknowledge and apologize for my own mistakes first, and then ask for the changes. My colleague was so understanding and willing to do everything. I knew that God had worked in this situation and had prepared both of our hearts. That day I felt so joyful and thankful that God listened to my prayers. I wanted to share this with another colleague. I told him all about how God worked in my life, and ultimately it helped me to gain an understanding of how I could leave my struggles and the results up to God. Another incident at my workplace that I still remember is a day when I accidentally sent an email to all of my students' parents without using BCC, which, if you don't know what that is, it is where you can hide each other's emails from each other. I must hide my parents' emails from each other due to privacy issues. But this mistake was a huge issue for me, especially because one of my students were going through family court issues, which required them to hide which school they were going. They had previously moved schools due to their school being known to people who shouldn't know. However, when I had sent out this email, I had revealed their email information, which could become a huge privacy issue. My hands were shaking and my mind went blank the moment I realized the mistake I had made. I started calling my assistant principal for help, but that day she was not picking up. It was already late in the afternoon and I had no idea what to do. There was nothing I could do in that situation, and I was so anxious of this. I prayed earnestly to God for help and waited for my assistant principal to get back to me. There really was nothing I could do in that situation. I was thinking about all the possible consequences that could arise, and as time went by, I became more and more anxious. Suddenly, an email came to me. I clicked on it and it said, "Error sending email." I had never in my life received this kind of email, and still, to this day, I have never received another one that looks like this. It was as if God had stopped this email from sending. The email had not been sent, and the email was telling and reporting me of this. I was so joyful and thankful of this and was assured that God had done this. I was once again so joyful and thankful that when my assistant principal called back, I testified all about what happened and how I had prayed to God and God had listened to my prayers. She was also very thankful, but then she told me to be careful. Another card God gave me was to pray for my students in my Year 4 class. Recently, my students sat the OC test, and many students were anxious and stressed. They were telling me of how they had tears coming to school that day and how much tutoring they had done in preparation for this test. I prayed for my students to have wisdom and to remember everything they had learned, just like my own parents did when I was sitting exams. Most importantly, I started praying for my students' souls. I realized that they were VIPs as well. They were VIPs as well who need God and need opportunities to meet Jesus. Please pray for me so that I can continue to mature as a powerful Christian outside of the church. Thank you.